but she's easy on the soul. She's so easy on the soul. Yeah, she gives me something good, something whole, and she's easy on the soul. She's easy on the soul. She's so easy on the soul. She gives me something good, something whole, and she's easy on the soul. On the soul. She gives me something good, something whole, and she's easy on the soul. Every day I sit near the corner, and achingly I long to cross her path.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I love that song. And that'll tie into a lot of things today, because by the end of this, our talk together, it's about remembering what we came from and how we're using it. But first, I want to tell you about these two priests that died at the same time. I wasn't following them around, but they go up to the pearly gates and they meet St. Peter. And St. Peter greets them and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, the computers are down. I'd love to get you in today, but I can't do anything. My hands are tied. So you're going to have to go back to Earth for about a week, but you can't go back as humans. So what will it be?" And the first priest says, "Oh, I have dreamed about flying over the Rocky Mountains with the eagles. I want to be an eagle." Phew, he's gone. First priest flies away. Second priest kind of steps back a second and he goes, "So you're going to be watching us?" "No, I told you the computers are down. It's a free week. I can't track anything that you're doing. It's a freebie." And he goes, "Oh," he says, "I've always kind of wanted to be a stud." And he goes, "Psh." Priest is gone. So a week goes by, the Lord calls down to St. Peter and he says, "Okay, computers are all set, everything's up and running, get those two priests back, we got to get them in here." And St. Peter says, "Well, first one's going to be easy, I can get him back, I think he's flying with the eagles over the Rocky Mountains, that shouldn't be a problem, but I'm not so sure it's going to be easy getting the second one back." Well, why not? Where is he?" "Well, I'm not sure, I think he's on a snow tire somewhere in Alaska." Careful what you ask for. Well, good morning officially. When I gave my last talk in mid-August, I mentioned that it had been the first one in a year. I was a little rusty, out of practice, but I had some fascinating feedback, which I want to thank those people very much for, kind of, sort of, but thanks. But actually, it turned out to be really important, because when I watched the talk, it's on YouTube right now, it showed me a very different view about how I see things and how I talk about things, and it revealed to me something that I hadn't noticed about myself before. I can get pretty technical with all this stuff, and I get pretty heady. And especially when it comes to this odd thing of New Thought and Science of Mind, I love how it works. And I love to really grasp it and understand it and dive into it. And probably why I like the Thomas Troward stuff so much, because he gets into all of that. But what it tells me is that it really kind of represents where I come from. What's my point of view about this and what I speak from? I come from this joy of understanding what this stuff really is. Because for me, if I know how something's working and why it's working, it's that much more powerful for me. If it makes sense, it's clicking. And in our first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind book, Ernest Holmes also gets pretty technical in all of that. I'm in my second copy of Science of Mind because my first one's in a baggie in pieces because it just has fallen apart. But I've got all these diagrams and drawings I've done in the margins of my book with all these arrows in and out of the teaching symbol because I'm kinesthetic, so I got to touch as I read and see and hear and listen, and so I'm drawing all these things as I'm reading. So it's pretty powerful stuff, but it's really important to me. Ernest Holmes does say, one of the greatest difficulties in our new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by our demonstrations. So doesn't that make sense? I think it makes sense. Okay. As much as I love the mechanics and the theory, I can talk about it to you and I can talk about it in the classroom, but it's really my demonstrations that show up, that really prove what I know in my consciousness and how I'm working with it. I've been doing this stuff for a long time now, studying and providing prayer with demonstration, and especially now, having just finished school, and I'm pretty sure I'm a little deeper and clearer in what all the understanding is of the how and the why. But I'll tell you, I can still get pretty amazed by a demonstration and what shows up. And when I recognize that I've done a prayer and something has really come from it, there's something inside of me that just goes, wow, TSW, this stuff does work. There are those times that I get kind of cool, though, and nonchalant about a demonstration, and I'll tell myself, well, of course that worked. And then there's those times when I get feedback, and I'll even get a thank you note from a client about something that I worked with them on, and it helped them, and they had a demonstration, and I'll read that note, and I'll go, oh, thank God it worked. You know, you can kind of go in every direction. And then there's those ones that are so amazing that I literally drop to my knees. The stuff is powerful. So realizing that we all have different ways of hearing things, explaining things, we have different things that light up our mind in different directions. I'm going to do my best to keep all of this moving and flowing for us. So I may talk about some theory, and I'll try to keep the words a little simple, and I may get a little technical, but we'll share some stories and all of that too. So sound okay? Sure. We'll work together on that. Very good. Thanks, Shane. Okay. So why am I telling you all of this? Because today, well, I'm going to tell you. We're going to talk about the world today. That's not an easy topic. With everything going on right now, where do we see ourselves in it? What are we looking from as we view what's going on in the world, in the politics, in our families and everything? What's our point of view? And that's kind of a polite way of me saying that we each have different opinions about things, and we're coming from different places. But what are we looking from? Right now, there are families divided in different directions, really being pulled apart right now, different points of view about the same topic, especially in politics. I've said before, I have a twin brother, and he and I couldn't be more diabolically opposed right now in politics and world events. And he'll send me emails or different things about stuff, and I'm right on my text going, no, 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 no. So we actually had to make an agreement that we love each other first. And we are not going to talk about politics or world events until December. And that'll keep everybody friendly. And there's a part of me that wonders, we both came from that same little condensed environment, you know, like, shouldn't we be thinking the same? What happened to him? And he's thinking the same thing, what happened to her? There's no doubt. So we're just not going to talk about it until our birthday in December. It's kind of crazy making. Right now, there are certainly lots of topics we can choose to talk about. There's lots of things that are pretty great and pretty important. And you might be catching things on the news. You might be catching things on your phone. I love those news headline blasts that I get. They kind of keep me up on a few things. I don't have to read or listen to the whole story. You hear things in passing. And, oh yeah, there's that little thing called the presidential election. That's crazy making right there. There's a lot going on that can hurt our hearts, make us angry. and possibly make us wonder if what they're saying about the world evolving in a good way is really happening. Sometimes I'm questioning what planet I came from. Why did I pick this one? So whether our minds make certain things out of what we're hearing and it gets twists and turns, or we're instructed by our TV sets to take sides and think this way or that way, we have lots of words and thoughts that want to pop out. Some people want to fight back and they want to be the activist showing up at the rally or the demonstration downtown. Some people want to sign, there's all those petitions on Facebook, yikers. They just keep coming. And are we really getting, they want to really get in somebody's face and change their mind and make them think one way or the other. But there are those who want to make a different kind of action. They want to come from their heart. They want all the changes to come from their heart and reach out into the world in a good way and in a healing way. And can we have a demonstration of peace from our heart that works? Well, I think we can. Now, I'm not saying that all those other people that want to get out there and go to the demonstrations and get in your face are wrong, because I believe that they believe they're right. I know they are. They think that, and that's right. And they're coming from their heart, because that's really important to them, and that's how they know to do that. Some of us in Science of Mind might describe some of those activities as actions of separation. He's wrong, I'm right. And in separation, can you really change someone's mind about anything? I'm not seeing it in politics right now. The theme for the CSL organization this month is about service. But that topic is not easy to see right now with everything that's going on in the world. But I can say that service fits in many different areas and can look like lots of different things in lots of different categories. Some feel it's vitally important right now to be aware of the seeming chaos that's going on in the world, and that that's what we should be focusing on, not the good stuff. And heaven knows media is not going to get their ratings if they're going to follow peace and love, right? So we're getting all the other stuff. 2 weeks ago, we experienced a wonderful healing service from our beautiful musicians. Musicians? Magicians. Whatever. And from Linda. Last week, Reverend Donald talked about what's at the heart of the matter, coming from the heart. What's going on inside of us. And when we can recognize what's bouncing around inside of us and even make any necessary changes, we're doing a service for ourselves. And that actually, I believe, reaches out into the world. When we take care of ourselves, that vibrates out. It's going back to the truth that we are all one and that we're being active in that way with the world. So here's a thought for you. The Dalai Lama says we can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. That quote has been spun around by a lot of different people. But what it says to me is that I want the world to be at peace. And if I want the world to be at peace, I have to know peace of mind. I have to be at peace with myself and all that I am, not blaming anybody else out there, not blaming myself or shaming myself, or judging right or wrong or good or bad within myself or out in the world. Wow. Does that feel easy? Yeah. Okay. How many of you can wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I know I love myself. Today I love everything and everybody in the world. And I know that all I experience and see is only divine order. That sounds kind of easy. That's a nice one to wake up to. But then, how many of you can go the whole day and say that in the morning and then go the whole day and stick to it? And then when you go to bed that night, you repeat it. And then you add to it, giving thanks for everything that happened in the day, no matter what it was or what it looked like. I'll share a little secret about me. I'm one of those people that loves to do prayer while I drive. I can drive down the highway, down the roads, kind of zone out. Yeah, la, 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 peace and love, and do all of that. You can ask the drivers behind me because they're wondering what that woman's doing in the car as it's kind of going around. And then all of a sudden somebody will turn in front of me or stop in front of me, and I have to slam on the brakes, and all of my stuff flies to the floor. One time I had cakes in my back seat. That was pretty stupid of me to put them on the seat. But I had to slam on the brakes because somebody pulled in front of me, and everything goes flying to the floor. And what flies out of my mouth is worse than George Carlin's 7 bad words you can't say on TV. And it'll just come out of nowhere. Well, not all the words, but you know. It just happens. It's spontaneous and almost unconscious. And then I'm like covering my mouth going, I'm sorry, as if somebody else is listening. But in all of that, I have to remember that I have to be what I want to see in the world. I have to be the change I want to see in the world. And that comes from our other activist, Gandhi. That's his words. We must be that inner peace in our belief and in our knowing. But not everybody feels that way, and not everybody has that understanding. If you ask author and speaker Fran Lebowitz, she'll tell you there is no such thing as inner peace. There is only nervousness and death. Well, that's healthy. Oh, was I being judgmental? I have family and friends around me who feel that way. And you get caught up in those conversations, and how do you respond to that? Well, I would bet that if that's her belief, that's what she sees and that's what she lives. So that's what she writes about. And there's lots of other people that feel that way. So, okay, let's look at this idea from a science of mind perspective. And from the truth of oneness, and from the idea that there is divine order, and how can we make a difference in that? How can we demonstrate what we want to see in the world? Colin Kaepernick, did I say that right? Kaepernick, the professional football player who now is not standing for the national anthem, he goes down on one knee. And he's making a statement, and that's now, it's a movement, and it's going into other sports. Other professional sports players are doing this now. And gosh, we love our professional sports people and our TV stars, right? That's why we pay them the big bucks. But he is hurting. He's rebelling, and he's making a point about what he's seeing in the country right now. He doesn't like it. There's lots of opinions about it. Many want to tear him down for it, and many want to support him because it's the very freedom of this country that allows him to have that voice and to make an opinion for what he feels is an injustice. But is he physically hurting anybody, or is he just making a statement? Bringing attention to it. I heard one opinion stated that to love this country is to be critical and to take a stand or a knee and do something about an issue that makes you mad. But he feels there's injustice going on. So is he right to do it in a peaceful way, to do it at all? Thomas Jefferson wrote to James Madison in 1787, and he said, I hold it that a little rebellion now and then is a good thing, and as necessary in the political world as a storm in the physical. That quote is taken from a book written by Marianne Williamson called Healing the Soul of America. In it, she goes on to say that wanting a healthy rebellion is not a negative emotion, but rather a politically legitimate expression of justified dissatisfaction. Dissatisfied people are often dissatisfied for a reason. And where we have no taste for rebellion, we have no taste for freedom. If we do not rebel in some way against conditions that arouse our anger, then often the anger turns inward, becoming depression or even physical illness. Failing to question the root of the anger, our standard response these days is merely to mask the pain. There is nothing serene or transcendent about it. It is essential to a slave mentality. It is essentially a slave mentality. That is powerful. Yeah. Reverend Mark Gilbert, who is the Global Service Coordinator for the CSL organization, writes this in his blog. I like the phrase, be for something and against nothing. He quotes Ernest Holmes in his writing, find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough to condemn others without the burden of his soul, and I will find another Savior, another Jesus, and an exalted human being. When we can focus on what we are for when we can eliminate the need to make others wrong in the process, we can truly perform miracles. I like that. I find my own self at a crossroads often these days, because do I sign a petition? Do I go to a rally? Do I go to a demonstration? Do I fight to change somebody's mind? I certainly have my own opinions. Or do I just go into prayer? Truly, there's so much going on that I'm all of a sudden questioning, where is my best energy and presence? Where do I use that? Anybody else having thoughts like this? Some confusion in some things? Yeah. So here we go again into a science of mind truth. Where are we in relationship with others, with spiritual principle, the events in the world, the politics, and how are we perceiving these events? How is it hitting us at the core? Our philosophy tells us that we live from the inside out, which takes us back to the question, what are we looking from? What's our starting point, our point of reference, our belief about something? We have unconscious beliefs that really control a lot of this, of what we think and what we do. Is it chaos and separation? Or is it oneness in the spiritual truth, that there's a divine principle and plan behind every activity? Sometimes it's hard to see that there's a divine plan around every activity. What kind of response would you get if you asked somebody in New York City this morning? There were some bombs that went off last night. It is done unto you as you believe. How many of us are being hypnotized and end up believing that the condition or events around us are the truth? What elements in our consciousness or in our deep beliefs are attracting some of these comments and stories from another person that kind of snowball into our head and make us think other things? There's a person in the news currently who is feeding great negativity and fear into the people through television and rallies. And who's going to be the one person to single-handedly save the country? All that stuff can move me in different directions at the same time. Sometimes these things in the news are so bad in our mind that we want to resist them. We kind of hide away from what we're hearing. We're feeling like, I'm safe in my living room. I have food. I made a good plan for myself. All is okay right here. I'm not going to look. And if I don't look, it won't affect me. It'll go away. But that's not the truth. It doesn't go away. It's still there. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, instead of an eye for an eye, resist not evil, but love thy enemy, feed thy enemy, and give blessings for cursings. Resistance has no place in God's plan, in God's creation. No place in the divine plan. Because divine harmony and divine order is the only law. We remember that God is right here all the time. You call it spirit, you call it divine, you infinite, whatever word works. It's always right here. When we resist the flow of love's healing energy, everything stops. Instead, can we claim divine love flowing to that person or that situation that's different from us? So is prayer enough? I asked this one time in visioning. I vision all the time. I asked, what's mine to do? The response I got was like something being channeled back from me. And it said, prayer, spiritual mind treatment, is the most active thing you can do. Can't you see how much energy goes into that? To truly keep focus, to keep the single eye straight on the divine plan and the divine good in all things, and not allow your thought to get pulled away. To keep that same thought. And who are you to think that God doesn't have a plan? So I pray. In closing, here's the thing I would like you to take with you today. Of course, it's always okay to have a different thought and a new idea about the world, about your politics, and what goes on around you, and how you want to see things unfold, because isn't it those creative thoughts that keep the world evolving and growing? Yeah. And remember that there's a universal divine power of good that created all of this, created you, created me, and is unfolding through each one of us all the time as we believe. Are your thoughts and beliefs in anger, resistance, or fighting back? Or are your thoughts in the principle of oneness and infinite intelligence coming through your surroundings? Are your thoughts in the law of life and harmony and divine order? Where are you coming from? Americans are doers. We got to be doing. We got to be fixing things. We got to be active. But sometimes you have to wonder, does it only come through the physical? Reverend Nirvana Gale was a minister with our organization. He was a pretty amazing person, and he just passed away recently. But he wrote about spiritual activism. I love that term, spiritual activism. Holding in your thoughts and our activity of connecting with one another that we are one with and inseparable from God. He says that no matter what we see in another's actions in the world, it's our job, our duty, our responsibility to continue to see the light in that being and see them as a radiant light of God or spirit or what that word is for you. And know, absolutely know in your being the truth that God is all of this and that God can only do for us what it can do through us. That's hard work. That's a spiritual activist. Know that there is a natural evolution of our individual thought moving into the universal collective thought. And the work of the divine comes through us into the world. When we put our thought and attention and intention into the prayer, whether it's an affirmation, a statement, or a full spiritual mind treatment, we are blessing and adding to and supporting the process of co-creating peace within us and the world. We are creating that spiritual prototype of peace in the invisible so that it moves into our visible lives. The spiritual prototype, that's a Thomas Troward word. It is the spiritual prototype of peace in the invisible that comes through our lives into the visible. We are being the spiritual activist, and that's our service to the world. Punching somebody in the nose and being a bully is the easy part. We've come here to take on the hard part. When we're able to make this a part of our daily lives, we'll have peace and we'll have abundance too. This will be your personal demonstration and your service, beginning with yourself and spreading it out into the world. Tell me how it goes. Bless you. So I'd like to call our practitioners forward, and we can put this into prayer. And as I speak the prayer in first person, knowing that there's only one mind, recognize and know that this is your prayer too. And so we take a breath. Let the music flow. Take a breath and going within, move to that place that is vast. That place within that is brighter and vast and loving and continually unfolding in good. That place in the center of all creation, it is that sea of love. That place and heart of the divine. And I know that it is moving and expressing in all that I am in every moment, through every cell of my body, radiating out. Because as I put my attention on that, it is my expression and my desire that I am in that expanding good every moment of my day, and that vibration of love and oneness is rippling out into the world. I let the light of that divine shine in my eyes so that when I see each and every individual, I see their light. And that's good. I know for the world today that peace comes through. That literally there is peace. That it abounds in every heart of every absolute individual in the world. I know it may look different. It may look different than my definition of peace. But I know that above that and back of that is that power of love that is making its way through. And I open every vessel of my body for that divine good to flow into the world and do its work so that we all spiral into that evolution of love together. And peace and understanding in that world that works for all. I call that good and very good. And I know that for each individual here today, that light of love expands and embraces and graces everything that's touched and thought and dealt with. And I am in absolute joy and gratitude and appreciation for what does come. For I know that what might look different to me, I cannot describe what it means to another, but I know God is in it. And so having that understanding, I let it be. I release this word into that law, into that creative medium, knowing that it is in the right hands, in the right place. And so claiming this together, taking it in, allowing it to expand, together we say, and so it is.